right, let's go to Felicia Combs with a look at the weather. Methane, though, is how we all want to start.
I was going to say,
are
if
we
you
saying
need
it wrong?
an assistant, I'd like to volunteer to be your assistant. I bet I could help with some of those science projects.
In a cold climate.
In the cold climate, I've learned at this point, if I've been at the Weather Channel this long and I still don't know how to dress for the warm weather, then that's going to be a problem. So, I know how to dress for the warm weather. I mean the cold weather. Dress warm for the cold weather. Anyways, let's talk about this system because this is really having a big impact up and down the West Coast, well, especially the Pacific Northwest, and you can see it there. Now, this is what we're going to be watching. These are the types of things that the meteorologists look for, that the models show us when we're looking for the forecast far out. So this is the trough, or kind of the bowling ball of the system that's going to dig in and is going to bring us our risk for some of that severe weather this weekend, maybe a little bit of snowy weather, but I think the big thing to watch with this is going to be the potential for some flooding and that severe weather that's going to develop with it. So that's that system that we're watching right now on the West Coast, swinging in, bringing us that risk for some severe storms. A big thing that we have to watch with this is that possibility for rotation. We've got the jet stream, we've got the changing in winds, and that is going to lend us to that risk of severe storms. Plenty of moisture as well. I know we've been talking so long about how it is so dry here along portions of the Gulf Coast and the South, so we'll take the moisture. What you don't want is the flooding or the severe storms, and that is what we're going to get. We're going to talk a little bit more about this system and what it's doing coming up, so stick around for that, guys. You know, you want the rain when you're talking about drought, but you don't want the flooding potential and the severe storms.
And the wind that's going to come with it.
Yeah.
I know you'll talk about that in a little bit, Felicia. Thank you.
Well, building. Speaking of green, there's a lot of it coming in the near future.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot on the map here, and that means a lot of moisture. So let's talk about that. It's going to be impacting your weekend. Tons of moisture pulled into the warm sector of this low pressure system. We've got a really vigorous system. Now, the question is, where will the cold air behind that frontal boundary meet up with the moisture? Well, it's not looking like we're going to see a lot of that happening. So the snow is going to be really limited with this system to kind of the northern edge of the precipitation. That profile is just not going to lend itself to a lot of snow out of this, but it will get very, very cold behind it, very cold and windy with this system. So a wintry mix, snow building into the Great Lakes and the Midwest, just a bit of it though. This is going to be one of those things where you're right on the cusp for a lot of these cities. We've got temperatures that will be falling, but I will say for cities like Chicago, it's just a forecast you have to watch closely because when you have those elevated bridges, guys, sometimes those freeze a little easier, and as we know, it's just a matter of a degree or two with this.
It can be. Felicia, thank you.
A great transition there. I love you too, Steph. I also love this show. I was just thinking how wonderful to solve a problem with, another problem you're having. So it's fantastic. What is not fantastic is all the rain that just continues to add up and is on tap for the Pacific Northwest. Now, Seattle, if you're trying to find a bright spot, it's going to be your Friday. You get a little bit of a break before that next atmospheric river makes its way in. You can see nice cold rain for you guys. We've already seen some record-breaking rain here or there, and guys, we're nowhere near done. We still have quite a few more inches in some places to go, and of course, this is the system that's going to swing across the country.
From Felicia, talking about some of the heat we've got here in the lower 48.
Yeah, speaking of a park, you may be visiting the park, which you might not typically do during December, but with these temperatures so above average for some of us, you might be like, oh, let me get outside and soak it up a little bit. 86 million people today with above average temperatures. That expands even more tomorrow, especially across the central portions of the country. Friday, you see that spreading farther eastward. It is certainly not feeling December-like for a lot of us. Here's the culprit in case you want the cooler weather or the weather feature you should think if you like the warmer weather. High pressure is hanging out across the central states. It kind of dives south and eastward by tomorrow, and that makes that warmer air become more widespread. So you can see we'll have temperatures 15, 25 degrees above average across portions of the plains. A lot of us are feeling these temperatures in the 60s. Look at that, 68 in Denver, 67 in North Platte, Dodge City today, 69. And then you can see that bubble of warmth kind of spreading a bit farther eastward, places like Kansas City, St. Louis in the 60s as well. Dallas, lower 70s for you for tomorrow. We're approaching records in some places like Omaha. The forecast for tomorrow, 60 degrees. The old record, 61, set back in 1918. So we've got some pretty old records on here. We're forecasting forecasted to break that there in Waterloo, Iowa. So we could see some old records falling. Now here's the kind of caveat for some of us. Are you going to be pretty warm for a couple days? Yes, you are. But then once that full system swings through, you're going to have those temperatures taking a nosedive, and it is going to get really cold for some of us by the end of the weekend, guys.
Excuse my sneezes there
That's
during
okay. I
your
was going to say
segment.
bless you, but then I was like, if no one else heard it, they're going to be like, what is she talking about? So bless you.
I don't know. It was
Everybody
pretty
heard
loud. Thanks.
All right, here's what's coming up.